5.16. Try it out like this. See if this works. 5.16. Page number? Introduce. Okay. Text 16, please sound read.
When power, when it enlightens, the knowledge but is designed to destroy, then his knowledge reveals everything. As the sun lights up, everything is revealed.
There are two types of knowledge, material and spiritual. Bhakti not happen. Knowledge related to material prakriti is called the jiva's ignorance or avidya. Spiritual knowledge is called vidya. Jivas who develop spiritual knowledge and destroy material knowledge develop spiritual knowledge in the form of the highest knowledge and manifest the spiritual supreme tattva of truth. But those with realization do not become bewildered. The greatness of knowledge of the soul and the supreme soul attained by the mercy of an authorized guru has been stated in certain verses before. Those who associate with saintly persons have their ignorance, which is opposed to knowledge, destroyed by that knowledge of the soul and the supreme soul. Their knowledge then reveals what is transcendent, which indicates the supreme Lord, because he is above or transcendental to unequal treatment of the jivas. And it indicates the jiva, because he is transcendental to the material body and the senses. Just as the sun on the rising destroys darkness and reveals objects, knowledge of the soul and the supreme soul, attained through instructions of the authorized guru, reveals the real soul, the supreme soul, directly as they are. The plural case is used here by the Lord to indicate that even in the liberated state, the jivas remain in abundance. It's not that after liberation we all become one, in which case you have to use singular. After post-liberation, there are many jivas. After liberation, there are many jivas, which indicates that after liberation also, jiva exists as jivatma. The present statement and the Lord's instruction in the beginning of the Lord's teachings in chapter 2 confirm each other. Somebody should read out Prabhupada's purport. Very clear in his explanation.
Those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered. But those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu Jnanam, Jnanam, Paramani, and Nahi Jnanam. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders to Krishna. As it is said in the 7th chapter, 19th verse. After passing through many births, where one perfect in knowledge surrenders unto Krishna, or when one attains Krishna consciousness, then everything is revealed to him, as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he unceremoniously thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of his sense. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by missions? Does God become bewildered by missions? If so, then missions or Satan is greater than God. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master and under him learn what Krishna consciousness is. For Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all missions, as the sun drives away darkness. Even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not his body, but is transcendental to his body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and the super soul. However, he can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect bona fide Krishna conscious spiritual master. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God, because he has knowledge of God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. Lord Shri Krishna therefore stated in the second chapter, 2.12, that every living being is individual and that the Lord is also individual. They were all individuals in the past, they are individuals at the present, and they will continue to be individuals in the future, even after liberation. At night, we see everything as one in the darkness, but in day, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge.
So one important realization that that person achieves is that there is spiritual variegatedness. That there is spiritual variegatedness. Prior to that, he only has a theoretical understanding, but now he has developed realized understanding about spiritual variegatedness. But that can only come from the bona fide spiritual master. Earlier also we saw knowledge about the Supreme Soul has to be given by the spiritual masters who are fixed. Based on that, Baladevi Devotion points out that only the authorized spiritual master will be able to inject it into the soul. At night, we see everything as one in the darkness. But in day, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Text 17.
When one's intelligence, mind, head, and attitude are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgiving for complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
This verse describes the results for those who meditate on the Supreme Soul's qualities, such as his sense of justice. The aspirant's intellects first become convinced of such qualities of the Supreme Soul. Then their minds become absorbed in the Supreme Soul's qualities. The Supreme Soul becomes their only goal, and they completely surrender to him. Thus they become cleansed of all misconceptions by knowledge of the Lord's good qualities like justice. Having destroyed all aversion to the Lord, those persons attain liberation. Those who attain fixity of intellect, fixed, steady position of the intellect and mind on the Supreme Lord, endowed with the spiritual soul, means that when they understand that the Supreme Lord has his own spiritual personality, cleansed of the contamination of ignorance by knowledge, they attain liberation in the form of not taking birth again. See, the word liberation, moksha, mukti, has two different senses. One is just freedom, release, liberation in the sense, right now we are forced to go through Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi in the form of a cycle, again. So to become free from that, Technically, it's called asamsaritva. To not go through the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease. But then liberation also has a higher meaning. Muktir hitvanyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. To be situated in one's constitutional position. That is also considered liberation. Higher liberation. This is just lower liberation. So at the very least, those who become God realized, they attain this type of liberation, lower liberation. At the very least, those who have attraction to the spiritual no longer have material attraction. They are attracted only to hearing about and glorifying me. The supreme transcendental truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. One whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge are always in Krishna, or in other words, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and is in perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. A Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, simultaneous identity and individuality in Krishna. And equipped with transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. Text 18.
Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavyastane sunichaiva supati cha pandita samadarshina. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast.
This verse praises those persons. Those persons are truly wise, who see Paramatma as being equal. Even though he creates unequal bodies for the learned Brahmana and dog-eater, which differ in actions or duties, but belong to the same species. And for the cow, elephant, and dog, which differ in form because of being different species. Paramatma is equal everywhere like a rainfall, since the respective species receive their forms according to their respective karmas, not through the Lord's like or dislike of certain jivas. Gyanis, who attain spiritual qualities after giving up unequal vision, seeing in terms of good, mediocre, and inferior by material qualities, are termed learned, and being endowed with seeing equally all beings, the learned Brahmana, cow, elephant, dog, and dog-eater. Now, if you look at this verse, you have different words. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane, Gavi, Hastini, Shuni, Swapake. In Sanskrit, all of them have a certain grammatical form, commonly referred to as Saptami, seventh case. In other words, if you look at the meaning, Brahmane means in the Brahmana. And Vidya Vinaya Sampanne is an adjective of Brahmane. So Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane means in a Brahmana who is fully equipped with education and gentleness. Gavi means in the cow. Hastini means in the elephant. Shuni, in the dog. Swapake means in the dog eater or outcast. And then you have Pandita Samadarshinaha, those who are wise, who see with equal vision. So Vadiraja Tirtha, Madhvaline, he points out a person who has equal vision, he is not seeing the Brahmana, the cow, the elephant, the dog, and the dog eater as equal. Rather, he is seeing something or somebody equally. Wherever he is situated, that person may be situated in the Brahmana, in the cow, in the elephant, in the dog eater. Okay, so what is he seeing? He is actually seeing the Paramatma who was described in the previous verse. So he is seeing the same Paramatma untransformed, unchanged, unaffected. Whether that Paramatma is in the Brahmana, whether that Paramatma is in the cow, whether that Paramatma is in the elephant, whether that Paramatma is in the dog, whether that Paramatma is in the dog eater, he sees equally. Samadarshana. So he is not seeing all of these as equal. He is seeing the Supreme Lord as equal. And he is situated in different places. A Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species or castes in a particular sense, which will be clarified now. The Brahmana and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or a dog, a cow, and an elephant may be different from the point of view of species. But these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. This is due to their relationship with the Supreme, for the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portion as Paramatma is present in everyone's heart. In other words, the Supreme Lord, in his plenary portion as Paramatma, is present in the heart of a Brahmana who is fully equipped with education and gentleness. He is present in the heart of a cow. He is present in the heart of an elephant. He is present in the heart of a dog. He is present in the heart of a dog eater, an outcast. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. As far as the bodies are concerned in different castes or different species of life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone because he treats every living being as a friend, yet maintains himself as Paramatma regardless of the circumstances of the living entities. The Lord as Paramatma is present both in the outcast and the Brahmana, although the body of a Brahmana and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature, but the soul and the super soul within the body are of the same spiritual quality. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the super soul, however, does not make them equal in quantity, for the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision. The similar characteristics of the soul and super soul are that they are both conscious, eternal, and blissful. Satchidananda nature is the same. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the super soul is conscious of all bodies. The super soul is present in all bodies without distinction. So this should be clear. Prabhupada's explanation is very, very clear actually. Okay, text 19.
Ihavetarpitat sargo yesham samyestitam manah nirdosam kisamam brahma tasmad brahmani testitaha. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman.
Samsara is conquered even at the stage of sadhana. Samsara means going through the cycle of birth and rebirth. That's called samsara. Samsara is conquered. Conquered means it is stopped. You have successfully gotten out of it. Even at the stage of sadhana, by those persons whose minds are absorbed in the quality of impartiality displayed by Brahman. Brahman means, actually Brahman in Baladev Vidyabhushan's language means the all-attractive person. Brihanto hyasmin guna iti Brahman. The one who has a great number of attractive qualities is referred to as Brahman. Higher meaning of the word Brahman. Why do we say that Brahman is equal to all? Because Brahman is devoid of attachment and repulsion. Because those persons are convinced of the equality in Brahman due to Brahman's absence of desire and hatred. They are situated in Brahman alone, even while in this world. This means that they easily attain liberation, even while they are situated in the material world. Not that they merge into Brahman. Those whose minds are situated in equality conquer over samsara, this world. They are faultless, having equal vision of Brahman. Thus, they are situated in Brahman. Nirdosham hi samam brahma Tasmat Brahmani Testita. They are situated in Brahman because they also are situated on the platform of equality in their dealings with the material world. Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is a sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below, means they are coming, forthcoming. So because Krishna does not have any attraction or hatred towards anything in the material world, and we also come to the same position, now we are eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Prabhupada, in another place, he says, in order to enter into the spiritual sky, in order to render eternal service to Krishna, one should become qualified. And he gives an example. Just as we know, Yanti Deva Vrata Deva, that if you want to enjoy the happiness of a particular demigod, you need to worship that demigod. You need to worship the demigod, and you can go to that demigod's planet and you can serve that demigod. Okay. He says, let us say you want to go to the planet of the sun god. So now you will have to become like the sun god. You need to have the same type of body that the sun god has in order to serve him. For that, you need eligibility. So you cannot go with your body made of solids. Earth, water, fire, air, ether basically means solids, liquids, radiant energy, gas, and so on. So I cannot go there with the body made of earth. I need to have a body made of fire, because he has a body made of fire. Okay. So like that, if I have to go to the spiritual world in order to serve Krishna eternally, I need to have Sachidananda body. I will only be awarded Sachidananda body after liberation. In order to get liberation, I need to become free from attraction or hatred towards anything in the material world. So, preliminary requirement. But because one leads to another, to another, to another, these people are already considered to have attained it. Text 20.
Now, the person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence.
This word speaks of the characteristics of the person situated in Brahman. Situated in his present body, he does not rejoice or lament on attaining favorable or unfavorable conditions attained by prarabdha karma. Why? His intellect is fixed in his soul. It is not fixed in his body or in his mind. He is not bewildered by identifying the eternal soul with the temporary body. He realizes Brahman, which means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his qualities as described previously. The person who has these qualities is said to be situated in Brahman. The knower of Brahman, becoming situated in Brahman, being unattached to externals, has fixed intelligence. He does not experience joy on attaining dear objects or agitation on attaining repulsive objects. The symptoms of the self-realized person are given here. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is a fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called sthira-buddhi or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So a person who's like this, he has attained the same nature as far as dealings with the material world goes, like the Supreme Lord. So he's developing the qualities which are essential in order to be with the Supreme Lord, serve the Supreme Lord, and so on. 21.
Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. A self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme.
This verse explains that a person, after realizing his own soul, then realizes the Supreme Soul. When a person not attached to experiencing the objects of the senses realizes his own nature and experiences bliss, he then becomes completely absorbed in realization of the Supreme Soul and attains indestructible happiness, an experience of the greatest bliss. This knower of Brahman attains spiritual happiness. Absorbed in Brahman, he experiences indestructible happiness. She attains indestructible happiness. Sri Yavanacharya, a great devotee in Krishna consciousness, said, I think this is the second time Prabhupada is quoting this verse. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought and my lips curled with distaste. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed. See, Brahma Yoga means by concentration in Brahman. You can see in the synonyms. That is actually Krishna consciousness. Whatever. One minute. Just simple small thing. Told you. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell, and a materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor, strength, without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is a test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being a liberated soul. And just to point out how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur thinks about Bhakti yogis. Just point out second canto. There is a verse earlier on. It is verse Nidreya Hrite Naktam Vyavayena Seva Vaya Divachate Haya Rajan Kutumbam Haranena Va. The lifetime of such an envious householder is passed at night, either in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime, either in making money or maintaining family. So in his commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this refers to, he always talks about 4 categories of people. The Vishayi is sinful people, then Karmis, Jnanis, Yogis, Bhaktis. So he says this refers to the Karmis because there's no question of any of these activities happening for any of the higher 3 groups. It means these activities are not Arthakama, they are not, they will not be touched by anyone who's engaged in Jnana or Yoga or Bhakti. So that is the standard of Bhakti. That's why I keep thinking whether to 2.1.3 Bhagavatam. Yeah. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being a liberated soul. So when in Gunibhuta Bhakti phase, that is actually karma predominant Jnana Bhakti, technically karma yoga. In that stage of Krishna consciousness, one is allowed to accept this under regulations, restrictions. But when one moves to higher platforms, then he becomes celebrated. It moves forward. That is why Prabhupada is saying Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure, even if it is allowed within Shastri. It's not attracted to that. And of course, sexual activity is not just sexual union. It refers to everything that leads to that, starting with thinking and so on. All the 8 items of romance, passion, sexual activity, everything is involved. So if we are progressing in Krishna consciousness, we will not experience any juice in any of them. But if we constantly feel bored and we need to get jacked up with let's watch a romance movie, then you understand that we have a problem. We have a serious problem. It's a disease. Okay, text 22.
An intelligent person is not a part of the process of living, which are diplomatic interactions or cannot complete. Such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not divide.
This verse explains that determining the temporary nature of the sense objects which manifest according to karma, that person is not attached. The experiences of happiness generated by sense objects are sources of misery. The rest of the verse is clear. The first text of the verse is obvious to the audience that he is writing to. For them, it's absolute foolishness to engage in even regulated, restricted sense pleasure. It is obvious to them that it's just misery. It's just less misery. The more you engage in sense enjoyment, the more you end up in sense suffering. It's all obvious to them. But Prabhupada, you'll see, he spends time. We are dull, more dull. This discriminating person is not attached or bound to material happiness in the form of sense objects. All happiness arising from sense objects produces suffering only. That happiness arises from contact alone. Since it has a beginning and end, it is not eternal. We will study this in great detail in the last 6 chapters. It is just in the mode of passion. We experience we know that all material activities can lead to some happiness and some unhappiness. We know that. But in the mode of goodness, it's predominantly happiness. Mode of passion, predominantly unhappiness. Mode of ignorance, predominantly unconsciousness. When you are unconscious, let us say you have drunk so much. And now you're unconscious, you're lying, and then somebody comes and kicks you, beats you, and puts an injection, cuts your hand and all that. You don't feel pain. That doesn't mean you become transcendental. Okay. It simply means that your unconsciousness is greater than your pain. So predominantly, In Tamoguna, the conditioned soul is described as being bewildered or out of touch with reality. In Rajoguna and Satoguna, they are in touch with reality. In Satoguna, more happiness, Rajoguna, more unhappiness. Tamoguna, but at least you can say more, you can say between happiness, unhappiness, and unconsciousness, happiness is predominant in Satoguna. Rajoguna, unhappiness is predominant. Tamoguna, unconsciousness is predominant. So within material existence, it is a world of harsha shoka. We get delight and we get extreme distress, lamentation. O Kaunteya, the previously described learned persons do not have attraction for temporary happiness at all. They accept only actions related to bodily maintenance without desire. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana, it is said, Ramante yogino nante satyanande chidatmani iti rama padenaso param brahma vidhiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is said, Nayam devo dehavajam vivoke kashtankama nathadevi pujyam ye tabo divyam putrakayena saptam shuddhyet yasma brahma saukhyam tvanantam. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure. While in this human form of life, such pleasures are available to the stool eaters or hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified. Existence will be purified means your heart will be purified. And as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. So all these penances that we undergo now, that is also with the desire to attain future happiness. Only distinction is spiritual happiness, not material happiness. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more is entrapped by material miseries. Text 23. Cannot hear at all.
Before giving up his present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this body.
The disturbance of lust and anger is unfavorable for steadiness in realization. Therefore, one who is endeavoring for steadiness in realization should tolerate them. A person should tolerate the agitation in the form of disturbances and problems to mind, eye, and other organs arising from lust and anger. He should continue to control the agitation at the time it arises by the joy of realization of the self until the time he gives up the body. Such a person is said to have attained samadhi in the self. He has realized himself. He alone becomes blissful with a realization of the self. Therefore, with intense effort, he must tolerate these disturbances. Knowing that one should necessarily accept material objects only till giving up the material body. Being able to tolerate the impulses of desire and anger by Nishkama Karma Yoga. The person is absorbed in Atma Samadhi, self-realization, and experiences real happiness. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. There are the forces of talk, forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of the stomach, forces of the genitals, and forces of the tongue. One who is able to control the forces of all these different senses and the mind is called Goswami or Swami. Such Goswamis live strictly controlled lives and forego altogether the forces of the senses. Material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger, and thus the mind, eyes, and chest become agitated. Therefore, one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. One who can do this is understood to be self-realized. and is just happy in the state of self-realization. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously to control desire and anger. On the pathway of jnana or yoga or bhakti, control of desire and anger is considered the foundation. In fact, this is all the first three verses of Upadeshamrita are in fact common not just to bhakti, it is common to jnana, yoga also, everywhere. And knowing that in Kali Yuga we find these things intensely painful or almost impossible, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the process of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So, if we try to increase the quality and quantity of our chanting, then we get more and more capacity to not go by the forces, these six urges. We get spiritual capacity to control our body and mind. We take advantage of that. 24.
Yontaha Sukantana Thantarajapiriye Vacha Sadhvi Brahmanidhana Brahma Bhuta Adhikatshati. One whose happiness is within, who is active and visualized within, and whose aim is inward in actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme.
This verse explains that by this joy, he conquers the disturbance. The Nishkama Karma Yogi experiences happiness through realizing the Atma within and perform spiritually pleasurable activities through that realization. His vision is concentrated upon the Atma alone. Such a Nishkama Karma Yogi, having attained his Swarup as the pure Jiva, then attains Paramatma, who is the very form of liberation. By attaining the Lord, he attains liberation. So, in other words, he is moving forward, as I have shown. Initially, he develops a certain degree of detachment and realization, but then as he progresses, he develops more realization. Where is my sheet? Where I leave my sheet? My dirt sheet. Here you all have it. Somewhere around. Why only my sheet is disappearing? Does anyone have a bad habit of always taking my things and placing it in some place? Somebody is doing it all the time. Silly progresses. In other words, this in track 1, detachment and realization, development of Jnana Vairagya is happening through 3 different stages. Whereas in track 2, through 2 stages. Track 1 through a single stage. Decent system, nice system only. That was text 24, no? Knowing that happiness, pleasure, and knowledge of the external world is temporary, accepting spiritual happiness, pleasure, and knowledge of the inner world, becoming Brahman, attaining his nature as pure Jiva. He is a yogi and attains Brahma Nirvana. He attains spiritual liberation. Unless one is able to relish happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? A liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. He can therefore sit silently at any place and enjoy the activities of life from within. Such a liberated person no longer desires external material happiness. This state is called Brahma Bhuta, attaining which one is assured of going back to Godhead, back to home. See, you will also notice a parallel between Lord Krishna teaching 18th chapter. After a discussion of the 3 modes, up to Sarvodharman Parijamamekam Sharanam Vidvan. As I mentioned, there are 3, he talks about Swanishtas, how they progress. Paramishtitas how they call this, Nirapekshas how they call this. So if you look at only a few verses up to Brahma Bhuta Prasanna, that section is only some 5 or 6 verses. That directly matches with the first 6 chapters, chapter 2 to the end of chapter 6. All of that is summarized there. So whenever we get confused about this, you can always look at the summary because it should match. That is the reason why Krishna is talking about it again, to summarize it, make it clear. So eventually one comes to the point of transcendental devotion service. Then eventually he attains the highest abode. Text 25.
Abante Brahma Nirvanam Shakshina Kalmasha Chin Pradhya Yata Atmanaha Sarva Bhuta Hiterata. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sin, achieve liberation in the Supreme.
This verse explains that many people attain perfection through this sadhana. Those who have had a vision of the truth, who have had all their doubts destroyed, who have destroyed all ignorance, control their minds, and are engaged in the welfare of all beings, attain Paramatma and liberation. The sages with controlled mind, engaged in the welfare of all beings, devoid of doubt, and having destroyed all sin, attain Brahma Nirvana. Note that engaging in the welfare of all beings is considered a part of sadhana. It is one of the things we are supposed to do. Paropakara. We are supposed to help others. Only helping ourselves, that is okay. But helping others, it is one of the important activities by which we can satisfy the Supreme Lord. So that is brought out here. But at the same time, this point of engaging in the welfare of other beings comes only here. Only when one is spiritually mature will he know how to help others. So from that we can understand that until we come to the point of detachment and realization, we may be engaged in the activity of preaching as assistants. But if we also start thinking I should save the world, no detachment, no realization, how I can save the world? I can assist somebody who has that detachment and realization. Only a person who is fully Krishna conscious, who is fully in Krishna consciousness, can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. Because corresponding to our realization only we can share. What can we share? What realization can I share when I don't have it? One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. It's the state of divine love. A person engaged only in ministering, that means taking care of. Ministering to means taking care of. The physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle, material world. Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta often criticize material philanthropic activities, and that may be a matter of great surprise. What is this? This is also Paropakara. No, we are helping somebody in distress. To remove others' distress is a good thing, it is not a bad thing. Then why Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati shout and scream at all these people? The reason why they are so irritated is because their sentiment is nice. They do want to help others, that is nice. But the activity that they do is not removing their distress. it reinforces their distress. So therefore only they are expressing their dissatisfaction. That they also, both of them accept that it is far better to at least think about others' happiness than to be complete selfish person. One who is completely selfish is absolutely foolish. When one comes to Rajoguna, at least he begins to value others. Even for selfish purposes, he values others. In Tamoguna, he doesn't even think that much. So at least he's thinking of others' benefit. That is good, but it is not good enough. That is the only point that Prabhupada keeps making. It is not coming up to Lord Krishna's standard in Bhagavad Gita. This is the reason why Prabhupada keeps on saying that we may give a body organ in donation. And Prabhupada finds some reason to say it is not good. Why? Because it does not come up to Bhagavad Gita standard. In Bhagavad Gita, the minimum standard is everyone should aim at liberation, quickly or slowly. But you must tangibly move them towards liberation. Otherwise, you're not helping them. Again and again and again, they're going to suffer. And that means, it means that you are ignorantly trying to do good to them. And what is the use of ignorant paropakara? It should be enlightened paropakara. If somebody is hungry, then you have to give them food stuff, which is actually food stuff. If you give them some brick and say, eat this, that means you have a sentiment to relieve their hunger, but you don't know that, no, you cannot eat a brick. You can only eat food. So you should know also. In India, they say that if you become concerned, you're going in a bus and you see some woman, she's vomiting due to morning sickness, and you give her some aspirin, they'll all laugh at you. Because it's not some ordinary headache. She's pregnant and she is vomiting in the first trimester. They vomit. Okay. So for that, there's something else to be done. So your sentiment to prevent her from suffering is good, but it is not of tangible benefit now. In fact, it's going to create another problem. For a person who doesn't have headache, he takes aspirin, he gets some other problem. So that is the reason why they are saying that it's not up to the standard of Bhagavad Gita. It is only going to increase their problems. That is why Prabhupada is saying that if you want to do real good to others, it should be on the basis of self-realization, Krishna realization. It should be proper. 26.
Kamakrotra vimuktanam dachinam yapachetasam andito brahmanirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future.
The Paramatma indeed serves such persons. Paramatma in all respects attends upon those persons who endeavor in this way. It is said, the fish nourishes its offspring by seeing, the turtle by meditation, and the birds by touch. I nourish my devotees with similar affection, O Brahma. In other words, Krishna nourishes his practicing devotees who want to come to his position in all the three ways. The fish nourishes its offspring by seeing, by looking at it. That's all. The turtle by meditation and the birds by touch. But I nourish my devotees by seeing, by meditation, and by touch. By seeing means Krishna sees us. By meditation means Krishna meditates on us. By touching means Krishna himself takes care of his devotees. There are other places also. Garbhabhuta Tapodhana. In Ramayana also it comes. That once you have taken up the austerity of surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayana, he takes care of the surrendered souls the way a mother takes care of the child inside her womb. Fully, absolutely, in every possible manner. That is why the sages, they tell Lord Ram, it is your duty to take care of us. What all these demons are disturbing us. We have accepted austerity as our wealth, the austerity of surrender unto you. So we are like children in the womb of a mother. We need to be taken care of. In Vedic civilization, nobody likes abortion and things like that. They like the children inside the womb, they take care. In fact, the women don't even eat certain foodstuffs considering that it may disturb the child inside the womb. That degree of care and love they have. So, to that degree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead likes those who are trying to reach Him. All the saintly persons who are constantly engaged in striving towards salvation, one who is in Krishna consciousness is the best of all. The Bhagavatam confirms this fact as follows. Just try to worship in devotional service Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great sages are not able to control the forces of the senses as effectively as those who are engaged in transcendental bliss by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, uprooting the deep-grown desire for fruitive activities. In the conditioned soul, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep-rooted that it is very difficult even for the great sages to control such desires despite great endeavors. A devotee of the Lord, constantly engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, perfect in self-realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme. Actually, the reason why a devotee in track 3 makes such a rapid progress is for everything he will engage in the activities of bhakti. Means within bhakti also there is gradation. Certain activities have more power. That is why we talk about Panchanga Bhakti. Out of the 64 items, the 5 items have more power. Out of all of these, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra has been chosen by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Yuga Dharma. So there are 64 items. Within that, there are 5 items. And within that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has only chosen that one item of Nama Sankirtana as a Yuga Dharma. That is the most powerful item. So just as you may go for a job, an earning boy is better than a non-earning boy simply sitting at home and just eating off the family's food. But amongst those who earn, say, 1,000 rupees an hour, his job is more valuable than somebody else in the same home earning 1,000 rupees a day or 1,000 rupees a week. So similarly, those who are engaged in devotional service are more powerful than those engaged in other activities of dharma, like jnana, karma, and so on. But within the activities of bhakti also, those who are focused on more powerful activities, they attain faster realization, detachment. They attain greater degrees of realization, detachment also. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at every possible instance, promotes chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. In fact, in one place in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says, Krishna Nama Kore Sarva Papakshay Navavidha Bhakti Purna Nam Hoite Hoy. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is relieved from all the reactions of sinful life. One can complete the 9 processes of devotion service simply by chanting the holy name. These are the 9 processes. Shravanam, Kirtanam, and so on. So, if one offenselessly chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the result of the 9 devotional processes can all be attained simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offenses. So that one activity can give you the effect of all the other activities. That is why everywhere, that is the system amongst followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have to always mix other activities with Nama Sankirtan, at least at the beginning and the end. Everywhere at the beginning and the end, there must be Nama Sankirtan. Chanting. Without Hare Krishna mantra, we cannot progress. A devotee of the Lord, constantly engaged in devotional service, in Krishna consciousness, perfect in self-realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme. Owing to his complete knowledge in self-realization, he always remains in trance. To cite an analogous example of this, by vision, by meditation, and by touch only do the fish, the tortoise, and the birds maintain their offspring. Similarly, do I also, O Padmajan. The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditation. The eggs of the tortoise are laid on land, and the tortoise meditates on the eggs while in the water. So the Supreme Lord also meditates on us and takes care of us. While we meditate on him, he's also meditating on us. He's thinking of us when we think of him. Okay. So such a devotee, he does not feel the pangs of material miseries. This state of life is called Brahma Nirvana, or the absence of material miseries, due to being constantly immersed in the Supreme. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, those renunciates who have become free of lust and anger, who have controlled mind, who know the tattva of the self, quickly attain complete Brahma Nirvana. The Nishkama Karma Yogi situated in samsara, deliberating on Sat and Asat. Sat means that which is permanent, Asat means that which is temporary. Becomes situated in the Sat entity, Brahman, which is beyond matter. The state where all material suffering is destroyed is called Brahman Nirvana. Okay, text 27 and 28.
Darshan Kripa Bhagavayam Chakshustaivanatare Dhruvo Pranapano Samautatva Nasa Bhyamtana Charanam Yatindriya Manobodhe Mokshapayana Vigaticha Mayajodo Yata Mukta Evasam. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breath within the nostril, thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist becomes free from desire, free, happier, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated.
By performance of Nishkama Karma Yoga, the mind becomes purified. Then, when knowledge of Atma arises, one should intensely concentrate the mind in order to realize the Atma. This process of Ashtanga Yoga is described in 2 verses. So now, till now, Lord Krishna has been simply saying that after you attain understanding of the self, you will realize the self. But that realization of the self happens through a process. It happens through a technique. That process is the yoga system, the mechanical system of yoga. Just as we practice Nama Kirtana through chanting japa on beads and we count, that's a process. Okay, now you can utilize it for any other purpose also. Similarly, the yoga system is a process by which you can fix your mind on anything you want. You can fix your mind on realizing the Jivatma is different from the body. You can fix your mind on the Paramatma in order to realize that he is transcendental. So it's a process. So that process is adopted in the Jnana stage, or when you come to a certain point of realization. There you have karma. From the Shuddhama, you can come to yeah. From which you come to yoga. From which you come to yoga Vishnu. You'll see this in the next chapter. From which you come to Kevala Bhakti, which I simply call it Bhakti. Okay. This is one way. But from here can also come to something is wrong. No, that. Not very difficult. In fact, this is the way that Bhakti Thakur presents. For him, it's the simplest way because it's just one thing in between from the starting point and ending point. You cannot do that? Okay. Renounce karma, become a renunciant. Some people can only make progress in that way. They cannot, otherwise. If you tell them it's a simple thing, just increase your chanting, or no, cannot. I need a different environment. I need it differently. I cannot be in the same place. It's my whatever, hundreds of reasons. You may need to go through Bhakti Mishra Karma, Karma is Pradhan, Bhakti Mishra Jnana, Jnana is Pradhan, Bhakti Mishra Yoga, Yoga is Pradhan, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, Bhakti is Pradhan, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Bhakti is Pradhan, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Bhakti is Pradhan. This is another way. See, here there are two steps in between. But then there is, and if you cannot do that, this is also too much. Okay, you go to yoga. 3 steps in between. So Krishna has got some way. Start from the same point, end at the same point. You may be interested in whatever. You may be interested in Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, Bhagavan, whatever. Standard project. Start at the same point, end at the same point. Whatever transcendental goal that you have been discovered. This, but we should always keep in mind the shortest pathway is also the most demanding. We can see practically also. You tell them to come join the temple, no, what you want me to believe on this content? I cannot believe. It's got nothing to do with ISKCON. Krishna. Then more than Krishna. It's Krishna. They're just giving you facility, that's all. It's just like we catch a flight and come. No, we're not pure devotees of the flight companies. We don't believe in them. We believe in Krishna. Krishna will protect you from the flight companies. So living in the community of those who are giving you a higher facility, Krishna will protect you. Why Krishna wants it? Okay, so the sense objects, though external, by being subjects of remembrance, enters into the mind. That means something like a photocopy, an impression of it goes into the mind. By giving up memories of those sensations, the mind withdraws from the sense objects. In other words, not only we shut our knowledge acquiring senses from the external sense objects, we also become detached from our own internal attachments and repulsions towards whatever is impressed into our mind. It's just like there are some, within their mind, they can listen to a whole song. They can listen to a whole song. They just play. Oh, song is going on inside them. So because it's recorded, stored, smriti, memory, stored. So they can access it. That's how they access different images, different smells, and so on, and all of that. So by giving up memories of those sensations, the mind withdraws from the sense objects. The eye should be focused between the brows. By completely closing the eyes, the mind will become inactive with sleep. If one keeps the eyes completely opened, they will wander externally. In order to prevent both sleep and wandering senses, one should keep the eyes half closed, focused between the brows. By stopping the upward and downward movements of the prana and apana, moving in the nostrils through performance of kumbhaka, one makes them equal. By this means, one's senses, mind, and intelligence becomes fixed on seeing the soul. Such a person who is engaged in contemplating the soul, whose only goal is liberation, being devoid of desire, fear, and anger, is liberated at all times. at the time of perfection, and even at the stage of sadhana. Somebody should read out Bhakti now.
The Lord purification of Antahkaran arises. From purification of Antahkaran arises Jnana concerning the entity view form. Bhakti, the Swarupa of knowledge of the Lord, arises from that Jnana. One realizes Brahman, the Lord, from knowledge beyond the Guna, which arises from Bhakti. I have described these steps to you. Now I will speak of Ashtanga Yoga, a sadhana for realizing Brahman, for a person with pure Antahkaran. Listen as I speak of some of its shadow forms, removing from the mind all external contacts such as sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. That is practicing pratyahara. Keeping the eyes fixed between the brows, was to concentrate on the tip of the nose. Since there is fear of seeing by keeping the eyes completely closed, and fear of seeing externally, the eyes are completely open, it is prescribed to keep the two eyes half closed. In this way, one looks between the brows or at the nose. Making prana and apan vayu move in the nostrils while inhaling and exhaling, one should practice equalizing them while restricting the upward and downward flow. Sitting and employing mudras, controlling the senses, mind, and intelligence, the same intent on liberation, giving up desire, fear, and anger, practices realization of Brahman. When he does so, he can obtain liberation from matter in the form of qualities beyond the limits. Thus, at the time of practicing Ashtanga Yoga, one can practice Ashtanga Yoga as its result.
Being engaged in Krishna consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity, and then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. When one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. This particular position is called liberation in the Supreme. Liberation in the Supreme. What is the original for this? Brahmanirvana. Liberation in the Supreme comes in the translation of text 26. Brahmanirvanam, liberation in the Supreme. After explaining the above principles of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instruction to Arjuna as to how one can come to that position by the practice of the mysticism of yoga known as Ashtanga Yoga, which is divisible into an eightfold procedure called Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Okay, does anyone know more or less what each of these means? Any idea? Anyone knows what is Yama? Niyama. So there are some do's and don'ts here. And then what is asana? Sitting posture. Pranayama? Controlling the breathing. What is pratyahara? Yeah, you actually you close your eyes and you focus. Okay, then what is dharana? Dharana is when you begin to practice in the practice of meditation. Dhyana is unceasing practice. Yes. What's dharana is focus, concentration, correct. Dhyana is unceasing, focused, concentration. And what is samadhi? Yeah, one is now realized. Now one is coming to the point of realization. Enlightenment, spiritual revelation, enlightenment. May not be realization of Bhagavan, but something. At least realization that you are not the body. That much at least. Somewhere along the line. In the 6th chapter, the subject of yoga is explicitly detailed, and at the end of the 5th, it is only preliminarily explained. One has to drive out the sense objects such as sound, touch, form, taste, smell. By the pratyahara process in yoga, and then keep the vision of the eyes between the two eyebrows and concentrate on the tip of the nose with half closed lids. There's no benefit in closing the eyes altogether, because then there is every chance of falling asleep. Nor is there benefit in opening the eyes completely, because then there is a hazard, danger of being attracted by sense objects. The breathing movement is restrained within the nostrils by neutralizing the up-moving and down-moving air within the body. By practice of such yoga, one is able to gain control over the senses, refrain from outward sense objects, and thus prepare oneself for liberation in the Supreme. This yoga process helps one become free from all kinds of fear and anger, and thus feel the presence of the super soul in the transcendental situation. In other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagement. This is a better way of controlling the senses than by Ashtanga Yoga. 29.
A person in true conception of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerity, the supreme Lord of all planets and demigod, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living beings, attains peace from the minds of their dreams.
This verse explains that such a person situated in Samadhi, having accomplished the vision of his own Atma, becomes liberated by then worshipping Paramatma. That Paramatma is the maintainer and ruler of Yajna and Tapas. He is the great Lord of all beings, even of Brahma and Shiva. The Shruti says, he is the great supreme master of all controllers. He is the unprejudiced assister of all beings. Realizing me as the object of worship with those qualities, the person attains the cessation of samsara, shantim. So peace in the Vedanta philosophy refers to getting out of the cycle of birth and rebirth. That is the standard, basic standard. Anything lower than moksha is not considered to be success. Failure, 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 failure. It's either first class failure or second class failure or third class failure. Failure of it. Satisfying and worshipping the Lord of all beings and the benefactor of all beings indeed is pleasurable in execution and produces the ultimate happiness for the Jiva. By Nishkama Karma Yoga, the most prominent yoga, which contains within it jnana, the Swanishta devotee attains liberation. This is the meaning of the 5th chapter. Wait. We can just take out that verse. Yes. Actually talks about Nishama Karmana Yoga Shirasthena Vimuchyate Swanishto Jnanagarbhene Tyesha Pancham Nirnaya. So the Swanishta, he attains liberation through spiritual realization, which is contained inside Nishkama Karma and which has yoga as its highest level of practice. This person actually goes through the yoga system also. So he attains this detachment and realization initially through karma activities and through yoga activities also. In fact, they do this. I mean, they do it at when they go to Kapaloka course. Yeah, this process. See, once you come to the second stage, it's only one lifetime. So it's only the last lifetime that where because this process of Pradhanibhuta Bhakti is super fast. Just that you have to execute it with great care. Everything has to be executed with great care. Track 2 within one lifetime they attain. Track 3, more than that. But everything has to be executed very carefully. If we do anything wrong, we reverse also. We can also regress. That is also there. Even in our system, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that bhakti is like a creeper, and you pour hearing and chanting is considered to be pouring water onto it. But You have to protect that creeper from the mad elephant. And by default, weeds will grow. So you have to specially cut out all those weeds. If you don't cut out the weeds, weeds will grow. Weeds will grow and the creeper will not grow. So you cannot say, I'll simply go on pouring, I don't need to think about anything else. No, if you don't want, then the weeds will grow, nothing will happen. That's all. The creeper will not grow. That's all. So there are certain things to do, there are certain things not to do. When we execute Krishna Bhakti in that airtight manner, then there is effect. And understanding that executing Krishna Bhakti in that airtight manner is what is difficult. That is why Krishna is giving all these other options. Why all these other options he has to give? A whole Gita he could have completed in just 2 verses. He could have just said, Mamada Om Bhaktu Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mama Shisi Satyam Te Pratijane Piyosime Sarodharman Pratijya Mama. The vast majority will not buy that product. Even within ISKCON, they will not buy the product. And if you tell them stop everything in life and do this, they'll say, no, but I'm a human being. I have this, I have that. So for human beings, there is Varnashama Dharma. Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma for men, Sri Dharma for women. You execute it properly. In this lifetime, gradually over decades, you'll understand its benefit. In next lifetime, you'll definitely reap great benefits materially. So it is for material purposes. These things are there. The Karma Yogis just described attained liberation by knowledge of Paramatma arising from Bhakti. Know me to be the yajna performed by the karmis and the protector. Know me to be the enjoyer of the yajna performed by the karmis and the protector of all austerities performed by the jnanis. I am the worshipable Antaryami Purusha. Antaryami Purusha. Antaryami means the inner ruler. Antaryami stands for Paramatma. It's a common expression. I am the Antaryami Purusha. I am the super soul, the friend of all beings for the yogis. Teaching bhakti through my devotees, I mercifully give benefit to the jivas. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary to this verse has pointed out that here Lord Krishna is pointing out, as indicated, that he benefits all different types of practitioners. Let me just read out this very, very interesting one. Small section. Very interesting information he gives for the last verse. Don't get frightened by looking at this big book. It's that they have added their own commentary also. Okay. Evam bhutasya yoginah abhi jnanenaiva pratyuchena paramatma jnanenaiva moksha. Just as the jnanis, they attain their goal through spiritual realization of the Supreme Lord by the practice of bhakti, the yogis also attain their benefit because of the bhakti element. Yajnana, karmik kritana, tapasamcha, jnanik kritana, bhaktara, palayit taram, iti karminam, jnaninam cha upasya. So the Supreme Lord, he is the enjoyer or protector, caretaker, the worshipable object of the karmis and the jnanis. So notice this, bhaktaram yajna tapasam. So he is the one who actually is satisfied by the yajna of the karmis, the tapasya of the jnanis. Okay. Sarvalokanam Maheshwaram, Mahaniyantaram, Antaryaminam, Yoginam Upasya. And I am the great controller, the great Maheshwara of all the worlds, which indicates I am the super soul of all the worlds. So I am the one who is worshipped by the yogis. Sarvabhutana Suhritam, Kripaya Swabhaktatdvara, Swabhakti Upadeshena, Hita Karinam, Iti Bhaktanam Upasya. And I am the well-wisher of all living creatures. I am the one, through my devotees, I spread mercy. I make them engage in giving out instructions on bhakti and make them do good. So I am the object of worship of the devotees, Krishna is saying. Mam gyatva. And after they come to the transcendental platform and they realize me, only then they attain their respective benefits. Teaching bhakti through my devotees, I mercifully give benefit to the jivas. When the yogis attain absence of gunas by meditation on worshipable Paramatma, they can know me in the form of Bhagavan. Knowing me alone as the Lord of all worlds, as the Swarup of Bhagavan, the yogis attain liberation. The Karma yogis just described knowing me to be the protector of all yajnas and austerities, the Lord of all beings, and the friend of all beings, and in the end, gaining Bhakti Yoga through association of devotees attain liberation. Having heard the previous 4 chapters, the following doubt arose. If one attains liberation at the completion of Karma Yoga, what is the position of Jnana Yoga and what is the form of Jnana Yoga? To remove this doubt, all the instructions of this chapter are spoken. Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga are not different. The final goal of both is only one, Bhakti. Karma Yoga's first state is Jnana predominated by Karma, and its final state is Karma predominated by Jnana. Jiva, by its nature, is purely spiritual. Bound up to matter by desire for material enjoyment, it gradually degrades into oneness with matter. As long as the material body remains material, karma is unavoidable. Spiritual activities are the only method of liberation. Therefore, as pure spiritual activities become strong while in the material body, the domination of karma decreases. In this, there is no partiality of the Lord. Karma yoga is an assistant in spiritual activity. Practicing seeing everything equally, practicing detachment, repeating spiritual activities, conquering material lust and anger, and destroying doubts, one attains Brahma Nirvana, or contact with the happiness of Brahman while negating matter. Practicing Ashtanga Yoga in the form of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pratyahara, Pranayama, Dhyana, Dharana, and Samadhi, while passing one's life and maintaining the body with Karma Yoga, one gradually manifests the happiness of bhakti to the Lord through attaining devotee association. This is called peace after liberation. Then the tendency to perform pure worship manifests the glory of the jiva. Someone should read out Prabhupada's purport.
Those within the capacity of the illusory energy are all anxious to attain peace in the material world. But they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of the Bhagavad Gita. The greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the entity in all human activities. Men should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord, because he is the proprietor of all planets and the demigod thereon. No one is greater than he. He is greater than the greatest of the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. In the Vedas, the supreme Lord is described as Tam Ishwaranam Paramam Maheshwaram. Under the spell of illusion, living entities are trying to be lords of all they serve. Actually, they are dominated by the material nature of Lord. The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of materialism. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. This is the sense of Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna is the supreme predominator, and all living entities, including a great demigod, are his subordinates. One can attain perfection. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Krishna consciousness. This 5th chapter is a practical explanation of Krishna consciousness, generally known as Karma Yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how Karma Yoga can give liberation is answered herewith. To work in Krishna consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is the path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Authority, and the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna or the Supreme Personality of God. A pure soul is the eternal servant of God and his pregnant partner. He comes into contact with Maya due to the right knowledge of Maya. And that is the cause of his many suffering. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life, even while one is within the jurisdiction of matter, while it is an arousing of spiritual existence or practice in the material world.
The more one advances, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. The Lord is not forcing for anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duty in Krishna consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every respect and conquer the influence of desire and anger. And one who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the elements and atoms, remains actually in the transcendental state or Brahmanirvana. The eightfold yoga mysticism is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because the ultimate purpose is certain. There is a gradual process of elevation in the practice of yama, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. But these only preface perfection by devotional service, which alone can avoid peace to human beings. It is the highest perfection of life.
Now we know one thing from Prabhupada's life. Prabhupada very forcefully quoted this verse on several occasions and said this is a peace formula. Now this peace formula is true, but it is peace after liberation. It is not peace while we are all existing together, happily dancing together and all that. No. It's not some materialistic like UNESCO or United Nations, that kind of peace. It is a peace in the form of pure devotion service to the Supreme Lord after you attain liberation from material existence. And Prabhupada so forcefully presents this conclusion of the Acharyas. There's one thing we notice, that the previous Acharyas through great deliberation come to certain conclusions. In general, Prabhupada does not take us through that deliberation. He just summarizes that deliberation in a very simple manner, but forcefully highlights their conclusions and teaches us also to emphasize those conclusions. He keeps on saying, we are simply followers of the predecessor Acharyas. We follow in their footprints, he says. So they see both the Acharyas and even Vishnu Chakravarti also. They all say this is peace. But Prabhupada, he uses it and says that United Nations is wrong. Nobody will speak like this with this degree of conviction. And the Acharyas have come to the conclusion you attain full peace only after you fully got out of material existence and you're serving Krishna. That is what the world requires today. Okay, we'll stop with that. And we'll resume.
This is the response to Brahma Prasanatma.
Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param.